It's been more than a year since the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. A significant milestone that is expected to promote grassroots development and good governance. However, some stakeholders are calling for constitutional amendments and the active resistance from some state governments to enable these actors implement reforms and uphold democratic processes at a local level. Following the judgment, no elected chairman, no revenue allocation. Almost all states are in a race to conduct elections. Many conducted already. So what is expected for the new administrators of governance at that level? How effective will the local government autonomy be in impacting grassroots development? Tonight, the focus will be on local government autonomy impact on grassroots development after Supreme Court judgment, of course. And our guest is Barrister Shabba Ibrahim, National Chairman NALCON. We'll bring you situation reports from across the country. But before then, we'll welcome you to Weekend File. I'm Ruth Aguwele. Thank you for joining us. First, we'll begin with the news. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, says the National Health Fellows are demonstrating true leadership by taking ownership, solving real problems, and making lasting impact in their communities. Speaking at a 6-month formative review of the National Health Fellowship Program held in Abuja, Professor Pate commended the fellows for going beyond administrative roles to become problem solvers and change agents in the health sector.
Already you're on that path, just 6 months into your journey. So imagine what will happen 6 years down the path if you continue on this path. And if all of us play that role, I believe this country will be a lot better for it.
When we go to different states and local governments, we make sure that we listen to them and hear their stories. It has been a story of self-discovery, of leadership, but also of impact.
And to also let you know that we are here, we will continue to work with you, we will continue to support you, and you give us joy.
Professor Pate highlighted aspiring examples of fellows across different states who have identified challenges in their local communities and mobilized solutions, from tackling sanitation issues to addressing malnutrition, improving health data systems, and strengthening service delivery. Key stakeholders in the Shea nut value chain have welcomed the federal government's policy on zero export of raw nuts. However, they are calling on the government to establish a marketing board for Shea nuts and its byproducts. Musa Baba Aliyu reports.
This is how the Shea tree looks like. The tree produces fruit containing a nut that is processed to create shea butter. Nigeria is the largest producer of shea nuts, accounting for approximately 40% of global production. Due to the high global demand for shea nuts and their byproducts, merchants have been exporting the raw nuts without adding value. As a result, on August 26, the Nigerian government banned the export of raw shea nuts. Key players in the shea products value chain support the government's initiative.
The policy signifies government readiness to formalize share trading and curtail informal trading, as I said, with huge economic losses and arising from undocumented cross-border trading, smuggling, and black market practices. The Nigerian Customs Service should ensure effective policing of all borders to avoid further perpetration of illegal trading.
With the support of the federal government, Nigeria now hosts the largest shea nut processing factory in Mokwa, Niger State. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
In Jigawa State, hope has taken a new shape in the lives of women entrepreneurs as 500 beneficiaries received cash support under the Renewed Hope Initiative Women Economic Empowerment Program. The initiative is championed by Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, and coordinated in the state by Hajia Hadiza Umar Namadi, wife of Jigawa's state governor. Mohammed Musa Askira has more to tell us.
For these women, the gift of 50,000 naira each is more than financial support. It is a lifeline. From food vendors and petty traders to small-scale artisans, the empowerment package comes as a fresh start, helping them to expand their businesses, support their families, and contribute meaningfully to the community development. Haji Hadiza Umar Namadi explained that the gesture reflects the First Lady's compassion for Nigerian women, especially those in Jigawa, who play a critical role in sustaining household and driving grassroots economic growth.
Our unwavering commitment to uplifting women across Nigeria is the driving force behind this program. Today's event is a powerful testament to my dedication to building a more prosperous and equitable nation, one family at a time.
The beneficiaries, overwhelmed with joy, expressed deep gratitude to the First Lady and the Jigawa State Coordinator for remembering them at such a time of need. With stories like these, the Renewed Hope initiative is not only transforming businesses, but also rekindling the dreams of women across Jigawa State, one entrepreneur at a time. Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
The need for synergy, collaboration, and communication between protocol officers, media men, and the security personnel working with Government House, Jalingo, resonated at a two-day workshop in Jalingo, the Taraba state capital. Godwin Enalego reports that the Executive Director News, NTA, Ayo Adewuyi, presented a paper on media relations and government communication at the occasion.
The objective of the workshop was to conscientize the participants on their rules to avoid embarrassment, especially during government programs. The governor, represented at the occasion by the secretary to the government of the state, Gibbon Timothy Katabs, describes the workshop as very important.
They are the face of the state or the organizations they represent, and therefore this workshop is a serious business.
The work of a protocol officer, you must be humble. And don't fear, you must surge on.
In a paper presented on media relations and government communication, building strong partnership for effective publicity, the Executive Director News, NTA Headquarters Abuja, Ayo Adewuyi, x-rayed the need for synergy, collaboration, understanding and communication between the security personnel, protocol officials, and the media to effectively discharge their duties.
Let our key word in this conference be that need for synergy, need for us to work together as a team so that the interest of our principal can be well protected.
Let us work as friends, as brothers and sisters. Our principals will say, what has become of these my officers? I have seen they work very closely now, and he will be very impressed.
Participants at the event expressed the hope that the knowledge they have acquired from the workshop will pave the way for them for attitudinal change. In Jalingo, Godwin Inalewu, NTA News.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has directed Ibom Air to compensate passengers affected by a cancellation of a scheduled flight on Friday, September 5th, 2025, following complaints of poor service from some customers. The directive came after a passenger decried the airline's handling of the disruption. Director of Public Affairs, Michael Achimugu, explained that the disruption was triggered by a technical issue with the aircraft operating the route earlier in the day, and this had a knock-on effect on all other routes serviced by that aircraft. Meanwhile, Ibom Air had already provided hotel accommodation to some stranded passengers, while affected travelers would receive emails offering 25% compensation. In other news, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps says it has confirmed the killing of 8 of its operatives during an ambush by armed kidnappers in Okbela Esako East local government area of Edo State. The incident, which occurred on September 5, 2025, targeted NSCDC operatives attached to Boa Cement Company while on routine patrol to protect Chinese expatriates working at the facility. The Corps spokesman, Afolabi Babawale, says that while 4 expatriates were rescued unhurt, 1 remains missing. Also, 4 NSCDC operatives sustained injuries and are currently receiving treatment. Meanwhile, the Commandant General of NSCDC, Professor Ahmed Abubakar Audi, described the slain operatives as gallant officers who paid the supreme price in the line of duty. He directed the Edo State Commandant and senior management staff to visit the bereaved families, arrange for burial of the deceased with full honors, and ensure adequate support for their dependents. He also urged the public to disregard conflicting reports of the incident, stressing that the NSCDC remains unwavering in its mandate to protect critical national assets and infrastructure. President Bola Tinubu sends warm felicitations to elder statesman and former permanent secretary Uwele Gilbert Chikelu as he celebrates 95 years. In a fond letter to his friend of several decades, the president expresses joy at Chikelu's longevity, and the president prays that Chikelu's story will continue to inspire others to serve the nation with honor. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu also felicitates with Bishop Mike Okonkwo, founder and presiding bishop of the Redeemed Evangelical Mission, on his 80th birthday. The president, in a statement, joins the body of Christ to celebrate these milestones and prays that God continues to bless Bishop Okonkwo with good health, strength, and wisdom as he carries the gospel worldwide. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, our conversation on the impact of local government autonomy for grassroots development. Of course, after a Supreme Court judgment, what next? We'll begin. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. Now, you know, election into local government councils is part of the process of bringing the government closer to the people. Robinson Darataide reports that analysts in Port Harcourt want stakeholders to abide by the rules in making local government autonomy more effective in the state.
The Supreme Court judgment of June 11, 2024, granting financial autonomy to the 774 local councils and recognizing them as the third tier of government, raised citizens' expectations for proper management of grassroots governance in Nigeria. While the judgment was to put an end to the long-standing allegations of governors using joint account and caretaker committee to divert local council allocations, the process leading to the election of local government officials is largely skewed by politicians to control the system.
When the executive is still controlling the activities and affairs of the local government, to the extent that they have even refused to comply with the Supreme Court judgment.
If the local government system in Nigeria can be allowed to function optimally in line with the Constitution, we are the grassroots, because every Nigerian, even the president, belongs to the grassroots.
In Rivers State, within 3 years, there has been 4 different administrations in the local councils, and these intermittent interruptions affect development of the grassroots. Respondents argued that with allocation paid directly into council accounts, with strong political will, meaningful development can be attracted to the local government areas.
Let the local government chairmen that will be elected carry out their mandates of developing the people in the community.
We hear about humongous amounts that are given to local governments without commensurate development. But if the legislative arm of those local governments are properly invigorated, then we'll begin to see development.
They must strive to be able to the people. Make judicious use of funds accessible to local government for grassroots development.
Analysts advise councillors to be active players in terms of engagement with communities and by enacting bylaws that will help attract development in their various political wards. In Port Harcourt, Robinson Rateide, NTA News.
And in Lagos, we hear with the autonomy granted to local governments, those elected to administer the third tier of government in the state are expected to adopt a business unusual approach to governance and be more accountable to the electorate. Joel Popola reports.
The Supreme Court judgment has brought a paradigm shift in local government administration, and observers believe it has restored the core responsibilities of the local government to them. And this made the campaigns and local government elections in Lagos a different ball game, with well spelled out manifestos by the chairmen.
Hitherto, they were not autonomous. The states muzzled them down. But after that Supreme Court judgment, now I think it has impacted on democracy.
Being the closest to the people, they have direct impact on the lives of the people at the grassroots. And this is already manifesting with new projects initiated by the chairmen and completion of their predecessors' projects.
Recently, like back on back, Governor Sanwo-Olu was at Bariga first. If you see primary schools, structures built by Bariga local government, to the point that they even went as far as having firefighting equipment. I was amazed. Look at the roads they tarred. Look at the drainage. Same thing with Koshofe local government last week. If they receive the allocation from Abuja, you still have your oversight here and there. There is a council, which is the councillors, that could put the chairman on check.
Your roads, your lights, your street lights, the sanity of your environment, in their hands. Even healthcare centers, there's so much they can do now.
Because the resources or the revenue or the allocation that they get directly from the federal government, has increased tremendously. So also the infrastructural drive has also increased.
The political culture, especially the perception of the local government, will also change with time. According to respondents, more Nigerians will have a say in governance at the grassroots, which will put the chairmen and councillors on their toes. In Lagos, Joel Popola, NTA News.
All right, let's welcome our guests. We have in the studio Barrister Shabba Ibrahim, National Chairman, National Association of Former Elected Local Government Chairmen, that is now gone. Thank you very much for joining us, Barrister Ibrahim.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Nigerians.
Good evening to you too. Okay, so you've been part of the system and still in the system. And expectations are high following this autonomy that has been granted to the local government system. What's your take going forward? It's 1 year, more than 1 year, How should the system operate optimally without interferences?
Well, thank you very much. But let me sound ab initio that from the point of view of the Constitution, particularly Section 7(1) thereof, local government councils are expected to operate under a democratically elected structure. As a matter of fact, the Constitution guarantees that much. However, in practice, it will appear that the local governments have been converted to fiefdoms of the state governors. They can hardly breathe or do anything on their own without the interference of their excellencies. If you look at the purpose for the formation of or creation of local governments as a third tier of government, it was meant to engender development, security, and also national cohesion and unity. Unfortunately, what we have in practice is a far cry from that. Most of us were excited by that decision of the Supreme Court, that the pragmatic approach of the Attorney General of the Federation when he approached the Supreme Court for that interpretative pronouncement. And of course, the Supreme Court delivered a very resounding judgment. some of the components of that judgment has to do with full autonomy to the local governments and a directive on the Accountant General of the Federation to remit funds accruable to local governments directly to their coffers. Regrettably, however, this has been obeyed more in the breach. We have a situation where even after the Supreme Court pronouncement, some governors came out, and boldly too, much to the consternation of many, to challenge the reason for that pronouncement. There are some who even call for what they call political solution to a matter that has been concluded by the Supreme Court. I think it's an affront because viewed from the constitutional provisions, once there is some air of finality with the decision of the Supreme Court, recourse to court is not a first step in dispute resolution. As a matter of fact, it's the last option available. And once a court pronounces its judgment or decision, it behoves on all who are affected to give effect to it. But in this case, you have people calling for political solution to a matter that has been laid to bed by the apex court in the land.
Okay.
And I think that is an affront. I think it is not something that we should countenance. It's a direct affront to the judicial powers. And I dare say that decisions of courts are not supposed to be subjected to the scrutiny of the executive arm of government. It is not a matter of, it's not a buffet where you can pick and choose which one to obey or not to obey. Nobody appeals. We shouldn't even be appealing to people to enforce the judgments of the courts. Judgments of courts are meant to be enforced. We shouldn't plead for it. Okay. It is an obligation on the part of all to obey that. And if that is not done, I think there is danger in it.
All right. Barrister Ibrahim, let me go by the section you called, Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. It also provides for composition, structure, financing.
Yes.
If we're looking at this local government system operating autonomously, how can they build that strong structure, devoid of all of that? Because from what you're saying, there are indications of interferences. So we're talking about them standing autonomously. So how can they get that structure right? Now to the men involved and the women involved.
The structures are there. The structures are there. By that...
Well, implementation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's where we have the problem. And it will appear that even after the applause that the government received by taking that bold step to approach the Supreme Court, in implementation, they've gone very theatrical, in my humble estimation. I've listened to the Attorney General threatening their excellencies, like the state governments, with sanctions if they didn't do anything. But way down the line, nothing has happened. And if you ask me, even before you begin with the governors, what have you done? What has the Attorney General, the Chief Law Officer of the Federation, is in the best position to get the apparatus of law to enforce the judgments of the courts. As it were, not even the Accountant General of the Federation has complied with that judgment, in my humble view. So if we talk about the governors, what about the Accountant General that is directly under the office of the, that is under the executive arm of government? So I think there seems to me to be some, underground play. I think somebody is playing footsie with the issue of autonomy of local government, and perhaps high-stake politicking that will do no one any good at the end of it. Because I still maintain the issue of autonomy of local government speaks directly to grassroots development, unity of purpose of the common man, and also the security and welfare of the average Nigerian.
Okay, Barrister Ibrahim, you also have a stake, as national chairman, if we're talking this local government's chairman, because they have a task ahead of them. So we'll pick up with that after the break. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, we're having a conversation on impact of local government autonomy and, of course, the grassroots development, how it impacts the grassroots. And for councils here in the Federal Capital Territory, they say it was, more than just legal victory. Talking about the Supreme Court judgment, it was a test of leadership, they added, and direct service delivery. So there's Area Council's election around the corner. Our correspondent, Ifoma Ogenta, checks the scorecard of change.
Local government councils, which are the closest tier of government to the people, play a vital role of providing fundamental needs.
Local government is meant to provide administrative laws, so drainage laws, deal with municipal issues that you don't necessarily need the state authority or the federal authority rather to intervene. So what it means is providing better service delivery directly to the people at the local level.
Prior to the Supreme Court's judgment, many area councils operated with limited access to funds, leading to delayed projects and salaries. However, with the autonomy granted by the judgment, monthly allocations now drop directly into councils' accounts, eliminating details and joint signatory requirements.
The chairman of local government knows the problem of their locality. They understand the problem of their area. These are the people that deal with the local chiefs. These are the people that deal with farmers. They'll deal with all people within them.
Since the judgment, residents of the Federal Capital Territory have recorded significant impacts on grassroots development. For instance, in Buari Area Council, the wait for clean water has decreased and fewer children now sit under trees to learn. In Amak and Abaji, feeder roads now connect farming communities, while traders have moved from roadside stalls to more organized market setups.
Since I experienced it, I will agree that more often, most of the local governments are living up to expectations.
While progress varies across councils, the impact, though slow, is noticeable. With the upcoming area council elections, residents are shifting their focus from promises to tangible results and visible proof, emphasizing that responsibility must follow the direct funding. In Abuja, Ifoma Ogenta, NTA News.
All right, Barrister Shabba, you saw that report there for the FCT. Direct, service delivery, a test of leadership, and this local government chairmen are expected, or rather the system is expected to enhance the access to effective service delivery to the people at the grassroots level. You've had a stake before. How is it expected to operate, rather, going forward?
At the risk of repetition, I want to make it clear that there is a compelling need, more than ever before, to allow the councils operate independent of the state government. And when I say independent, I don't mean independence in a watertight compartment, no. I mean independence that will ensure that the constitutional role, the duties assigned to local governments, as in containing what you call the residual lists, should be allowed. They should be allowed to carry them out without let, minimal or zero interference. I've listened to the news clip about Abuja Area Council, and whether I'm unable to affirm or deny the truism contained therein, but I can say with considerable degree of certainty that majority of the councils in Nigeria are not as lucky. I'm aware that many local government councils across many states. State governments are even directly responsible for the payment of salaries of local government staffers. That is an aberration. It's not supposed to be. As at the level of Nalgon, which is a former elected council chairman, we're trying to see how some of these issues of local government autonomy can be addressed. And that is why we're proposing what we call the One Nigerian Conference that is going to Bath sometimes in October, God helping us, to bring together every stakeholder in the system so that they appreciate the fact that muzzling up the local government ultimately will not inure for the benefit of anyone. Insecurity, when a local government chairman is simply handed, given a handout at the end of the month by the state government, you know, it's funny. It's a tie of government, for all I know. And if you look at it by parity of reasoning, I've tried to look at what the situation would be were it to be replicated as between the federal and the state governments. So what we need is the will, and I'm talking directly to the federal government. Let's take out the politics in this. The Supreme Court has made a pronouncement. Pronouncements of courts, let me not even say the Supreme, of any court of law properly so called, are meant to be enforced. You don't plead with people to obey court, you enforce them. That is why you have all the instruments of unlegitimate instruments of coercion and force. It's at the behest, it's available to government. So I expect that the government should do this one favor to those people, because majority of Nigerians live in the rural areas and are governed directly by local governments. So if you have a situation where a local government cannot even embark on a project on its own without seeking clearance, that is if it's going to be granted at all from the state, I mean, it's in direct conflict with the purpose for which local governments were created or established. So I think that we need to look in that area. I want to implore or appeal to the federal government that have started this noble journey to conclude by take out the politicking in it. The governors will never on their own allow local governments to be free. And yes, I make bold to say the governors, they know why. Everybody, they are manipulating the councils left, right, and center, and I have no apology for that.
Okay.
Yes, let me land, please.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, they're doing all of this to the detriment of the majority of the people of Nigerians. And so I think the federal government has started to let them finish the job. Finish the job by ensuring compliance with the decisions of the Supreme Court. It looks like it's so audacious for you to come and say you want to find a political solution over a matter that has been laid to rest by the apex court of the land. It is, with all due respect, undermining the integrity of the courts. It's a violation of the principles of separation of power and an audacious affront to judicial independence and what have you. So I think we need to look in that direction. Otherwise, I mean, all will be lost, ultimately.
We're not praying for anything to be lost, Barrister Ibrahim. But of course, we've seen some states already, you know, in the race for elections. Some have concluded theirs. There's also expectations from this local chairman who, you know, will be elected. Accountability is key, which is what we've been hearing. What's your take on that? What would you recommend?
Talk about election in local government. With all due respect, most of them is a charity. It's a charity. Local council elections are not a reflection of democratic tenets. Most of them are by anointing. It's the principle of anointing. And that is why you see they are posting 10 over 10 in most of the most of the states where local government councils are elected. The ruling party scores 10 over 10. It's a charity. And that's why a lot of people have called for even the scrapping of SIEC. That's the State Independent Electoral Commission. I don't know how much independence. You gave an example of Rivers State, where in the last 3 years or so, or 4 years, they've had like 3 or so different administrations that all are running helter-skelter to conduct local government elections, which in most cases look to me like a charity. It's just to fulfill all righteousness, to be able to assess monies due to local governments from federation accounts. So it is a dangerous precedent that is being set. It wasn't like this all through. I dare say that when I served as local government chairman some 14 or more years ago, we didn't have this kind of things happening. We were sufficiently independent to embark on meaningful projects that are still visible there for all to see today. But I want to challenge anybody. Go to most of the local government councils and find out which local government has built, chairman has built a culvert in the last 4 or so years. Nothing. They are just there. They are just like the fiefdom of their excellencies available for them to muzzle up. If you want to, it's like slush fund. We have a duty to confront this thing head on if we must move on. What I said about all will be lost is not a call to anarchy, no, far from it. What I meant by that assertion is that if you don't do that, every objective, every purpose, the whole idea behind the establishment of local government councils will be eroded, and it won't be good for the majority of Nigerians, particularly the grassroots.
Barrister Ibrahim, we'll leave the conversation there, but you didn't speak on the aspect of accountability of this elected person.
I'm sorry, maybe I can just, 1 second, just 1 second. Accountability, you see, in the local government councils, you have the legislative council, you have the legislature, which is supposed to check the executive. But most of them are existing in name only because of this same issue of imposition, interference, and so forth and so on. So because of time constraint, perhaps we'll just leave it at that.
We're hoping for a responsive, accountable, and inclusive local government system.
I say
going
amen
forward.
to that. Amen,
all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Barrister Shea Ibrahim, National Chairman, National Association of Former Elected Local Government Chairmen. Thank you for your time on Weekend File.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. So let's take a break. We'll be back. Thank you for staying tuned. On a global scene, the World Health Organization is stepping up its response to a new Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In Sudan, aid agencies say villagers dig with bare hands to reach buried victims. Habibat Aminu reports.
The World Health Organization, WHO, says it has dispatched experts to Kasai province to work alongside Congo's rapid response team to boost disease surveillance.
We had previously prepositioned 2,000 doses of Ebola vaccine in Kinshasa, which we're releasing to vaccinate contacts and health workers.
The organization confirmed that Congo has both treatments and doses of the Ebivo Ebola vaccine in stock. This marks Congo's 16th Ebola outbreak. The country's health minister, Samuel Roger Kamba, said with fatality rate estimated at more than 53%. Officials confirmed that the first case was a 34-year-old pregnant woman in Bulapei, southern Kasai province. Reports say so far there are 28 suspected cases and 15 deaths, including 4 healthcare workers. In another news, Sudan humanitarian tragedy is unfolding in Darfur after a massive landslide buried 5 villages. Aid agencies say desperate survivors are digging with their bare hands to recover the dead. The landslide struck the remote Tassan area of western Darfur on Sunday after days of heavy rainfall. Aid group Save the Children says the scale of destruction is overwhelming, describing it as one of the largest disasters in the region's history. In Abuja, Habibat Aminu, NTA News.
All right, let's talk sports. And Ayo Deji Makinde set for us. Ayo, I followed the match, Nigeria and Rwanda, 1-0. What's the whole thing in there?
Well, it's a result that wakes up some kind of hope, but let's still keep believing. Well, there's still another match day on Tuesday. Okay. I'd like to welcome you to sports, where the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualification campaign for the Super Eagles is not yet dead, as they were able to secure a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Amavubi of Rwanda in Uyo, after a frustrating first half that saw star striker Victor Osimhen subbed. Substitute Tolu Arokodare made the difference, striking just 5 minutes after coming on in the 51st minute. The win lifts Nigeria to 10 points from 7 matches, placing them third in Group D. South Africa lead with 16 points, while Benin Republic sits second on 11 points. The Super Eagles depart for South Africa on Sunday, and of course they will play against Bafana Bafana of South Africa on Tuesday. All right, let's come from Uyo and go over to Asaba, where Team Lagos made history by becoming champions of the 9th edition of the National Youth Games, claiming the overall title for the very first time since the Under-15 competition started in 2013. The victory brought to an end Team Delta's dominance as Lagos finished with 52 gold medals, 32 silver and 26 bronze, ahead of Delta that placed second with 37 gold, 38 silver and 39 bronze, while Edo State came third with 33 gold, 13 silver and 28 bronze medals.
Over the moon, I'm overjoyed, I'm super excited. The feeling is extraordinary. I mean, the atmosphere is charged with excitement from across the value chain of operations within the Lagos State Sporting, family.
Elsewhere, Kelvin Erumose has been re-elected president of the Gymnastics Federation of Nigeria, while Mohammed Abba Inua retained his position as the vice president, both securing a third consecutive term. At the 2025 elective congress held in Abuja, Erumose was returned unopposed, polling 33 votes out of 35, with 2 ballots declared invalid. He pledged to strengthen the federation in the next 4 years and further elevate Nigeria's standings in world gymnastics.
Is to make sure everything is well structured. In terms of club, discipline, the first program we are going to initiate is to create our junior national team, senior national team, and we have them, take them for tour, take them for training.
And that's your sports. It's back to Ruth.
Many thanks, Ayo. So let's do the weather together.
We're starting the day with thunderstorms expected across parts of Kebbi, Sokoto, Taraba, Borno, Yobe, Kwara, and Niger State. Most areas will see cloudy conditions during the morning hour, but there is a fair chance of moderate rainfall in parts of Akwa Ibom and Cross River State. Now, as we move into the afternoon, storms are forecast to develop over the northeastern region, gradually spreading through to other northern areas. So do plan for possible disruptions later in the day. For the south, including the central down to the southern half of the country, we should expect to see light rains, giving moderate rains but less intensity than the northern region. And that's it from this end. Join us again.
All right, tomorrow, that is September 7th, is International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. You like the feel, right? A day set aside by the United Nations General Assembly to promote public awareness and collective action to improve air quality and address the risk of air pollution. The day emphasizes the importance of clean air for human health, environment, and highlights its connection to climate change. It serves as a call, for collective efforts and strategic alliances to improve air quality management and mitigate the impacts of air pollution, with the theme Racing for Air, emphasizing the fact that air pollution is the single greatest environmental risk to human health, contributing to numerous illnesses and death worldwide. So do your part for a clean air project. And that's Weekend File. Thank you for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. Good night.